Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to mismapasion, YouTube's premier channel about all things women's football. And on Friday, the 15th of December 2023, an important announcement was made that likely would have gone over your heads given the relative lack of coverage by major sports media outlets like Sky, and that is that Michele Kang had officially purchased London City Lionesses. From a surface level, it just seemed like a typical club takeover by an anonymous figure, as is commonplace in the world of football. But in this video, I'll explain why the takeover of London City Lionesses is so huge in the grand scheme of things when it comes to women's football, and why exactly did Michele Kang, football's Iron Lady, go for such an audacious business move. Born in 1959 as the youngest of three girls, Kang's story rise to prominence as the personification of the mythical American dream, whereby anyone from anywhere can come to the good old US of A and make something out of nothing for themselves. And Kang's own American dream began when she decided to strike out on her own to pursue her tertiary education in business and economics at the University of Chicago after what had been an illustrious academic career in her native South Korea. The decision by Kang to go study in the United States was a mix of both individual resolve and circumstantial timing, as at this time, South Korea was embroiled in mass demonstrations for a democratic republic to be formed, and as is commonplace, a sizable share of those protests took place on college campuses. And with her parents fearing for their daughter's safety, it was ultimately decided that Michele would go to stateside to further pursue her studies, especially after she had advocated for this herself on the back of a pre-installed resolve, courtesy of her own father, who always encouraged his children to be independent people in all that they pursue in life, and Kang herself would go as far as to offer paying her own tuition if her parents would pay for her first year of college education. Now, whilst the details of that interesting tidbit are unavailable, what matters is that when all was said and done, Michele Kang was on her way to become a trailblazing icon in the world of business and subsequently the world of women's football. After years of tireless effort and hard work, in addition to cultural and language barriers that she had to work through in order to financially sustain herself, Michele Kang had finally obtained her desired qualifications from the University of Chicago and an additional master's degree in public and private management from the Yale School of Management, and with her academic life now being concluded, the world was at her feet. The only question was, how would she go about leaving a mark on it? For Kang, the primary way of satisfying this question would be through becoming the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. For those of you who don't know, it is pretty much a title that is bestowed in the USA for the 500 American companies who attain the highest total revenue based on their respective fiscal years. And after years of learning and subsequently plying her trade as a management consultant for the likes of Ernst & Young as well as Northrop Grumman, and even completing a massive side quest in topping that dragon cancer, which she has thankfully been free of for nearly 2 decades now. Fortune finally struck for Michele Kang in 2008 when she founded her own company, Cognosante, which today is recognized as a trusted provider of technological solutions for key federal health, military, and intelligence agencies as state health programs according to the Horatio Alger Association. In the ensuing years, and based on what I've learned so far in this video, Michele Kang would only go from strength to strength in the corporate world with a literal laundry list of individual accolades to show for it, that if I were to read them all out right now, this video would be extended by a good few number of minutes. Kang's influence did not stop with corporate America, as even though by this point she was as self-made as they come and essentially a poster child for the American dream, her ambitions eventually seeped into other areas of interest that she had from childhood, such as becoming a trustee on the boards of the Washington National Opera and the Norton Museum of Art, stemming for her love of the arts and music. And it would be another interest of hers, in sport particularly, that would set Kang on a collision course with the beautiful game. On December 29, 2020, the NWSL franchise Washington Spirit announced that Michele Kang had joined the club's ownership group with a 35% stake in the brand. And I don't know if this was a matter of sheer coincidence or ruthless timing, but Kang's entry into sports ownership essentially coincided with the highly publicized 2021 NWSL abuse scandal, which is a video for another day. And if you're interested about it, then do let me know in the comments and I will definitely get on to working it. But when it comes to the Washington Spirit, they were not off the hook, as then coach Richie Burke was singled out for his poor and downright abusive tenure to that point, which includes accusations of bigotry and racism toward his own players. As you can imagine, such alleged behavior that goes on for a prolonged period of time only does so with the protection from above. But as a result of the scandal, not only was Burke subsequently fired after an investigation had been conducted, but Washington Spirit CEO at the time, Steve Baldwin, was forcibly made to put the franchise up for sale after accusations of nepotism and retaliatory behavior in support of Burke. And on March 30, 2022, Michele Kang purchased the Washington Spirit franchise in full and became the majority owner of the club. In her short stint as franchise owner, Michele Kang has overseen a steady, if a little disappointing tenure so far, as the Spirit finished 8th in the most recent NWSL season, missing out on the championship playoffs by virtue of just an inferior goal and points difference, which is something that the team can definitely improve upon, especially since their roster boasts the services of international stars like Trinity Rodman, Gabrielle Carl, and Marissa Shiva. Given how extreme football club takeovers range from having an owner who vigorously pours an obscene amount of money into the club to forcibly grow it into an overnight powerhouse of a success story that looks to monopolize its league, akin to something like Manchester City, or have an owner who only sees the club as a glorified personal bank that they can draw dividends from and either barely keep the lights on or slowly watch the asset fade away like at Manchester United. It is refreshing to see the rare approach that Kang has taken in seemingly handling her foray into sports ownership as a multifaceted passion project whose aim is to establish the first multi-club ownership model in all of women's football. If owning the Washington Spirit was the first small step for Kang, then subsequently purchasing Olympique Lyonnais' women's team was a massive leap in her conquest for footballing domination, as on 16 May 2023, Kang, along with OL Group, would announce the formation of a new entity that would allow her to acquire a 52% ownership stake in the OL women's team, thus making her the majority owner subject to regulatory approval from French and American authorities due to OL Group also owning OL Reign, another NWSL team that, due to conflicting interests of Kang essentially owning two teams within the same league, needed to be sold prior to the deal becoming finalized. But essentially, in just over a year, Kang had become the owner of not one, but two major women's teams, with the latter, Olympique Lyonnais, needing no introduction by any means necessary. If you thought that Kang's spending spree was over, then you haven't been paying attention, because like I said in the introduction, she has now also purchased English outfit London City Lionesses, and given how short her tenure has been so far in the world of sports, and how hard she has gone in investing in these teams who are all influential in their own rights, the pertinent question now is, what exactly does Kang have in mind for the women's game? Well, for starters, it is important to take a hierarchical view and see that it will likely be Olympique Lyonnais who will be the foundation that any kind of future success is built upon, as the team's history and present form is no stranger to the sense of victory and consistently performing at an elite level for a prolonged period of time. As the proverbial firstborn, Washington Spirit possessed the advantage of having the initial taste of Kang's backing, which has included the introduction of revolutionary research into developing training programs that catered to players going through their menstrual cycles and adapting other methods of improving player performances based on the female physiology and biology. And such vital information is undoubtedly essential in improving the conditions of female athletes within football, and will undoubtedly give Kang's sides a distinctive advantage once they become fully integrated into the training regimes. And finally, London City Lionesses. As a team that currently competes in the second division of England's women's leagues, the Women's Championship, one wonders what is it that they're bringing to the table that made them such an attractive prospect towards Kang. From a purely hypothetical view, the fact that they exclusively possess the title of being an independent club in the English top flights, meaning that they aren't just a women's team born out of a men's team like Chelsea or Bristol City, London City are an icon in the making, and a prospective leader who can show other prospective independent clubs how to hang in and around the major teams in England's top flights. And I don't think it hurts that they are also located just an hour outside of London, whose reputation precedes it in terms of its sheer appeal factor, especially as a globally renowned cosmopolitan hotspot. Whilst all the reasoning provided for the respective teams under Kang's ownership are speculative, her true intentions as a multi-club owner will soon become evident, and the whole world will be eagerly watching with anticipation to see just what football's Iron Lady does in the near present and far future. News of her purchase of London City Lionesses has been greeted with overwhelming praise from the world of women's football, but in the same way that time is cyclical, there will come critics who will point out the dangers of multi-club ownership and the harm it can bring, as evidenced by Red Bull and City Football Group. For women's football, this is uncharted territory that is entering, and with the lessons of the past and present to call back on, it is interesting to see what direction Michele Kang can take women's football. It must also be noted that these teams fall under the same umbrella. Kang has promised to not do a Red Bull and have them all adopt the same identity, and that each team will retain its own history and identity that was established pre-takeover. I think that this is pertinent to mention as it provides a crucial insight into exactly what kind of multi-club model that Kang intends to impose as our time in the game continues to grow. These are certainly exciting times that lie ahead for women's football on the domestic level, and it is interesting to see just how far Kang can take her idea. Maybe she can make OL Women an independent team like their sister clubs, which in my opinion would be far more detrimental for Lyon as a club more so than the women. Or maybe there exists a future where in one season, all three of Kang's teams respectively sweep the leagues that they compete in a historic feat of dominance that can be crescendoed in the Champions League final between Olympique Lyonnais and London City Lionesses. The possibilities and machinations on both a positive and negative spectrum are endless, and only time will tell on how well Kang managed to execute her grand plan to change women's football, and given how key timing was in her becoming owner of Washington Spirit, this aggressive push into women's football does not seem coincidental, especially at a time when the sport has seen astronomical growth in terms of viewership, financial support, fan support and engagement, and corporate backing as well from big companies like Nike, who are leading the charge in developing and globally availing equipment that is specifically catered to women's football athletes. And this could yet be another masterstroke in the grand plan. For all we know, this could be the missing piece that sees women's football finally reach a level of recognition that does not require it to lean against the men's game. And then again, it could all go up in flames. But seeing how far Michele Kang has come in her career, it is hard to see football's Iron Lady not leaving yet another mark in the world, but this time, the football world. And that is it for today's video. What are your thoughts on Michele Kang and her rapid advance into the world of women's football? And what do you think can and will be learned from her time inside it? Leave your thoughts on this and any other sentiments in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.